Okay, I'm here with Dr. Lynne Kenney. Dr. Kenney is the nation's leading pediatrics psychologist in the development of classroom cognitive physical activity programs for students. She's a prolific author, and I have one of her copies of her book, Musical Thinking, 5 Simple Steps, which is very relevant for teachers. There's a lot of useful lessons, and hopefully we'll talk about that. So thank you, Dr. Kenney, for taking the time out of your busy schedule to answer a few of my questions.
It's so great to be here with you today, Jack.
Yeah, excellent. Now, I have a few questions. And to begin with, what are executive functions and why are they so important to learning?
Well, it's a really great question because about 10 years ago, we used to say that IQ was most highly correlated with academic achievement. But in the past 10 years, the National Science Foundation and NIH have invested millions of dollars studying cognition. Okay. And what they've identified is that your executive functions actually are a better predictor of your academic achievement than is your IQ. So what are executive functions? Executive functions essentially are a number of interrelated higher order cognitive processes that we use as humans to succeed at goal-directed behavior. So it's everything literally from turning around and grabbing a book off your bookshelf to, meeting me in Canada for lunch. All of these things that make us human and social require executive functions.
Okay, excellent. And what are evidence-based ways to improve executive functions?
Well, it's interesting, Jack, because there are well over 30 executive functions, and we categorize them in different kind of categories. You've got your metacognitive skills, you've got organization skills, you've got planning, task management, time management, attention, memory, cognitive flexibility, et cetera, et cetera. So what happens is the funding sources will give grants to usually universities in order to study the impact of executive functions on everything from learning to self-regulation to behavior. And in 2019, in September, the Brain Futures Organization partnered with the Kennedy Forum in New York and Maryland, and they did a beautiful report on current evidence-based executive function interventions. We've got to remember, though, that there's different levels of research. So if something's really evidence-based, you know this, Jack, then usually it's been subject to random controlled designs and it's been peer reviewed.
Okay.
So that's the highest level, and those studies cost anywhere from $1 to $10 million to do. It's a lot of money.
Wow, yeah.
And then you have another level, which would be cross-sectional studies. And in motor cognition and body cognition, physical activity in the classroom, there are a lot of cross-sectional studies that are also peer-reviewed and published. So they kind of come in different, like the current evidence-based ones come in different categories. I would say that one category is cognitive skills training. So that's usually computer-based cognitive skills training. Then another evidence-based intervention is actually mindfulness and yoga.
Oh, yeah. Interesting.
And China's doing some really good research on Tai Chi and Qigong.
Okay.
Neurofeedback has a lot of evidence right now, and we're getting more and more evidence on engaging cognitive physical activities in order to enhance attention, enhance working memory, enhance cognitive flexibility. But as I tell everyone who comes to our workshops, we're talking about the very newest neuroscience research. It's literally like the tip of my pinky fingernail. So that's why I spend a lot of time going over the studies and talking about really honestly with the teachers and educators that we have to remain flexible and we have to remain vigilant regarding what's evidence-based, what's not. And then we also have to apply our own creativity and knowledge. The attendees at our workshops, Jack, are really smart. They've got years and years of experience. So I always tell them by the end of the day, after we've gone through tons of information, I really say, listen, you've got to also rely on your own clinical and educational knowledge because that matters as well.
Excellent. Now, you teach several self-regulation activities in your workshops, and participants are highly engaged. I know that from where you presented at our conferences and different workshops in different cities. Why is movement so important in self-regulation?
That's such a great question. So basically, Jack, when we do our workshops, we divide the activities into coaching activities. So this is all about brain literacy. And brain literacy, we know now from literature that if we raise children's, probably adults too, but I focus on kids, metacognitive awareness regarding their thinking skills, then they're more empowered to use the tools that are front of mind. So we got that category, and then we've got cognitive physical activities that are in kind of two different groupings. One is alerting activities. So that would be Cognitap and Cognitap Spots and Spotlight. And these are activities, movements, that really engage your attention by doing patterned, rhythmic movements that require thought. And they're fun, and we giggle, and the kids love it. Yeah. And then we do self-regulation activities, which are more about kind of calming the central nervous system. So we've got to remember, Jack, that self-regulation precedes everything. If I'm too excited to talk with you right now, I won't be able to organize my thoughts in order to have an effective conversation. So we have to be able to manage or modulate our internal energy. And I call that self-regulation, and I talk all about the difference between self-regulation and self-control, et cetera, et cetera. And essentially, if we can teach children through cognitive motor movement and yoga and Tai Chi, et cetera, just the felt sense of slowing down, then they can gain better control over their thoughts, their feelings, their actions, and behaviors.
Excellent. Now, I have a stat here. Less than 1/4, 24% of children to 6 to age 17 participate in 60 minutes of physical activity every day. How can we help kids become more active and move more?
Well, the great news is that we not only have really good research, but we have really good programs. And I actually just did a blog post yesterday at lynnekenney.com. It's the first blog post with all sorts of physical activity programs in Canada and in America. So there are lots of physical activity programs before, during, after, and after school. We can do something as simple as improving our children's what's called active transport, getting them to walk with us to school, riding bikes in the neighborhood, going to and from sports activities without driving. Something that simple can improve their everyday activity. Parking further in the parking lot, which I always do. My dad taught me years ago, all of this walking in the parking lot counts as exercise. You don't have to go to the gym. And so all of your movement during the day is really important too. And then playing games and sports and doing activities. You don't have to be a talented athlete. You just need to get up and move, preferably 60 minutes per day. Now, Jack, we now know from a 2018 study that kids and teenagers are spending up to 7 hours on average on their screens. And this is really not good for brain development. It's not good for socialization. We know that the screens are never going to go away, but let's just add more family activities, more trips to the park, more picnics with the family, more play ball inside against the wall, which we do at our house. We just got to get them moving and active, and it doesn't have to be going to the gym.
Yeah, I'm taking notes because I'm going to be a grandfather soon, hopefully this
So
spring.
exciting. And I will tell you, Jack, there's much more research on people our age in this regard. There's a ton of research on adults. So it's good for all of us. And it's kids really want to interact with the people they love most. And so the more we can do fun things with them and do activities and play games and get moving, the better for their academic achievement, their learning, their social relationships, and their health.
Yeah, so I know a lot of educators are watching this Skype interview, and so I have a question prepared. Why is the classroom an optimal setting for students to do physical activities throughout the day?
Well, we're really fortunate because young teachers are really paying attention to the research, and they're really recognizing that many of our children move to think. Children are not meant to just sit in their seats all day long. And when we, beginning in around 2008, when we started dropping down the standards, meaning making them earlier in the child's life, then we started getting preschoolers and kindergarteners who were required to sit, 30, 40 minutes at a time. And it's not proper for brain development. And it does impede their learning. So therefore, if kids are in class from 6.5 hours to 8 hours per day, dropping in motor activities into the day is very prudent. We've got research on recess, Jack. We have research on what are called acute cognitive physical activities. We've got research on coordinative activities, and these activities, they improve on-task behavior, they improve socialization. Kids who are fit get better grades, and it improves classroom cohesion, as my friend Mike Kazala says. So, and the interesting thing is, I was talking with Nicole Mullins. She's a scientist, and she said she did a study of classroom physical activity. And I said, Nicole, what were the teachers' greatest concerns? And she said they were concerned that if they got the kids up moving, the kids were going to get out of control. And I said, well, what'd you find? And she said the exact opposite. Study after study says the kids behave better when they move more, especially with thought.
Right. Now, just one final question, because I know we have your book that we sell at our events.
Oh, yeah.
Musical Thinking.
We have tons.
And I can't recall the other book, 70 play activities.
Yeah, 70 play activities. I wrote with Rebecca Comizio. She's a school psychologist. She's an amazing school psychologist. And it's got all these activities, from play math to self-regulation activities to written activities in those two domains that we talked about. Cognitive skills coaching, improving brain literacy, and then cognitive physical movement. And then our book, Bloom, is still really a popular parenting book, and it recently got published in Jakarta, which was kind of cool. And then Mike Kazala and I have to whisper because we don't have permission to share with the world yet, but we have written, and 2 days ago we received the proofs for our cognitive classroom physical activity cards. So I'm really hoping, I know they'll be out by August, but I'm kind of hoping that we have some available by May or June, because we have, I don't know if you know this, but we have 8 active programs right now being piloted in 35 classrooms in 25 countries.
Wow, very impressive.
So I want to get those brain primers. We just launched Cognitap Spots, which is not public, and I will do with our audience, and I think you're going to love it. And then, of course, the brain primers will come out. And what's the other nice thing I like, Jack, is that when I go to a conference, I want to walk away being able to do what the speaker talks about. And so I actually put our unpublished manuals in a Dropbox for the teachers who are really, really interested. And then as they move to publication, I pull them out. But they can get Movables, Cognitap Spots, Spotlight. They're going to have access to all of it, because if you come to the 8-hour workshop, you got to leave with a really full toolbox.
Yes, excellent. Now, I just want to mention your upcoming workshop. You will be providing a one-day workshop in Oakville, Ontario on May 6th on the topic of 30 proven and effective self-regulation and executive function strategies for children with sensory disorders, learning disabilities, anxiety, and ADHD. So we're really looking forward to planning that workshop and working with you, Dr. Kenney. So thank you for taking the time out of your schedule to answer a few of my questions this morning.
All right, have a great day.
Okay, thank you very much. Bye for now.